The story starts as a woman named Eleanor awakens in a strange room, which she has never come across. Across from her is the manager and architect of this place, Michael. Shockingly, it turns out that she's dead, and now she is in the afterlife. In the afterlife, there's the good place, and there's the bad place. Luckily, she's in the heavenly afterlife, called the good place. After a while, Michael gives her a tour of the good place neighborhood she'll be residing in. He explains that the good place is divided into several distinct neighborhoods, with each one containing exactly 322 residents who have been perfectly selected to create harmonic balance. Every neighborhood is unique. Some have cold weather, some hot, some are cities, some are farms, and so on. After the tour, Eleanor, along with some other newcomers, are made to watch an informational video. In the video, Michael welcomes them to their first day in the good place afterlife. He reveals that humans are given positive or negative points by judging each and every action they make in their lives. For instance, throwing trash outside the bin can get you negative points, whereas helping someone with directions can lead to positive points. After a person dies, their total points are tallied by the afterlife architects, and only the people with very high scores are allowed into the good place. Moreover, everyone in the good place is awarded with a house of their own. These houses are specifically designed according to their tastes and likings. In addition, they are also given a soulmate who matches their personality, a person with whom they are to spend their eternal life together. After the introductory sessions, Michael introduces Eleanor to her soulmate, Chidi, who used to be an ethics professor. Following this, he pulls up a video showing her memories from her time on Earth. It turns out that Eleanor worked as a lawyer who tirelessly defended innocent people on death row and campaigned for human rights. This is how she earned her spot in the good place. However, after Michael leaves, Eleanor realizes that something is wrong. As it turns out, the memories from the video are not hers after all. In fact, the afterlife architects had a small mix-up and invited this Eleanor in place of the real one from the video. This imposter Eleanor had a completely contrasting life, where she made a living by deliberately selling fake medication to the sick and elderly. She was crass, rude, and selfish. Eleanor knows that she's only here because someone with the same name was sent to the bad place instead of her. Shortly after, she is introduced to Janet, the source of all information and knowledge for humans within the good place. Janet is also responsible for providing the inhabitants with any object that's requested. She is basically Siri, who can be used primarily as a personal assistant by the residents of the good place. Next, she is also introduced to some neighbors. One of them is Tahani, who is outspoken and always done charity in her life, but strangely, her assigned soulmate is a monk who has taken an oath to remain silent in his life. That day, the good place is throwing a welcoming party for all the new residents. However, Eleanor's bad nature is soon revealed. During the party, she calls the neighborhood Tahani a giraffe and stuffs shrimp up her bra to steal some food for home. The next morning, something very unusual happens. In the neighborhood, countless shrimps are seen flying in the sky, giraffes are running around, and even a giant toad is wreaking havoc. It turns out that everything is a result of the negative energy Eleanor has been releasing in the good place. Taken aback and worried because of the incident, she reveals everything to her soulmate Chidi. She even begs him to help her be a good person so that she can remain in the good place, being the good guy that he is. Chidi agrees straight away and starts teaching her ethics lessons. A few hours later, the new residents are called to assemble for the second day of their orientation. In today's class, everyone will be taught how to fly, but since the neighborhood is in a mess, some of them have to volunteer to clean up the place. Taking this as the perfect opportunity to teach Eleanor about ethics, Chidi mentions both of their names. However, the problem is, anyone who volunteers will miss the flying classes. Eleanor is hesitant, but she has no choice but to agree. Initially, she does her job well and cleans the place well, but when she hears how amazing flying is, she hides the trash inside someone's home and goes to join the others. And just like the previous incident, this one has consequences. A large trash storm soon occurs, causing Chidi to lose faith in Eleanor. To make matters worse, her secret isn't a secret for long. That evening, Eleanor receives an anonymous letter stating that someone knows she doesn't belong here. Panicked, she assumes that her neighbor Tahani is the culprit, but just then she receives another message saying to meet in town square. Eleanor quickly follows the instructions and meets the sender, who shockingly is revealed to be Tahani's soulmate, Jason. It turns out he's not a monk, and just like Eleanor, Jason was also mistakenly put in the good place. He was a drug-dealing EDM amateur DJ from Florida who likes to play video games, but unlike Eleanor, it's been a walk in the park for him to hide his secret, as he has been assumed as a mute monk since he entered the good place. Together, Eleanor and Jason attempt to stay in the good place, but that proves more and more difficult, as the latter desperately wants to show his true self. One day at an event, he tries to go on stage and reveal everything, but before he does so, Eleanor creates a distraction by ruining a perfect perfectly made cake that one of her neighbors spent 3 days working on. Unfortunately, this creates a large sinkhole in the place, which sends the neighborhood into a state of panic. 4 days have passed by, but the calamitous sinkhole keeps becoming larger and larger. This makes Chidi very angry, implying that no matter how many times he gives Eleanor ethics lessons, it's impossible to change her nature. Soon their conversation turns into an argument, and for the first time in her life, Eleanor feels guilty. Hence, she makes a commitment that from now onwards, she will only do good things. It only took her until after she died, but it's a start. After a couple days of anxiety, Michael still hasn't figured out who the culprit is. He's beginning to doubt his ability to manage. So, he announces that he has decided to retire. Everyone is sad to hear this as they feel Michael has been a good manager. The next day, the neighborhood throws a party before Michael leaves. However, he asks to cancel the party as retirement for a being like him does not mean that he can relax. In fact, retirement for him means being punished heavily, where his soul will be disintegrated. Hearing this, Eleanor feels extremely guilty and decides to come clean. That night, as Michael is giving his goodbye speech in front of the whole town, Eleanor gets up from her seat and confesses to being the mistake that has been ravaging the neighborhood. As expected, this stuns everyone. The next day, a train arrives, ready to take Eleanor to the bad place. Chidi, Jason, and Tahani are there to say their goodbyes. However, before the train leaves, Michael takes pity on Eleanor and vouches for her to stay in the good place, claiming that she has improved a lot and has become good. This was proven when she confessed the truth to save Michael. The problem is that the real Eleanor has been brought to the good place to replace the fake one. Not only that, the superiors have also found out upon checking that Jason was also wrongfully admitted to the good place. Michael negotiates with one of his superiors, claiming they both have changed. But the superior decides that at least 2 people from here must go to the bad place. He doesn't care which 2. Following this, Eleanor, her soulmate Chidi, Jason, and his soulmate Tahani are sent to a room to discuss. Eleanor asserts that it has to be her and Jason, since the 2 were sent here by accident. However, Jason is reluctant to leave. As their arguments become more heated and frustrating, Eleanor laments how torturous this is, until Eleanor is struck with a revelation. She deduces that they are not in the good place at all, and that they are actually in the bad place. In addition, they are actually being tortured by Michael himself. She figures that since they are in this place, they are never happy. The 4 of them have been torturing each other, not by accident, but by design. When Eleanor confronts Michael and his superior about her discovery, they begin to laugh evilly. Everything was true. Soon, Michael reveals everything. After being an apprentice in the bad place for 200 years, he was finally given the chance to design his own neighborhood, but he didn't want to create a normal bad place. Rather than the standard physical tortures, the humans would end up torturing each other psychologically. He believes that mental torture can be as bad as physical torture. So, Michael selected 4 humans, and his intention was that their clashing personalities would result in them torturing each other in various ways. He also reveals that the remaining 318 residents are actually demons, playing the part of humans in paradise. Moreover, the real Eleanor is actually played by another demon actor named Vicky. Eleanor then wonders why Tahani and Chidi are in the bad place, as they are ostensibly good and moral people. However, Tahani immediately realizes that she was sentenced to the bad place because her charitable deeds on Earth weren't motivated by genuine altruism, but by a selfish desire for attention. As for Chidi, Michael clarifies that it was due to his rigid and indecisive behavior, which she refused to correct in any way despite knowing it made his friends and family miserable. With his scheme exposed, Michael begs his superior Sean for a redo by erasing the human's memories and changing some parameters, to which the latter agrees. In a last-ditch effort to do something, Eleanor remembers that the only non-actor here is the Siri-like robot, Janet. Hence, she rips out a page from one of Chidi's books and writes a message to herself, which she then hides in Janet's mouth. Eleanor then taunts Michael that he will never win, but in reply, he simply snaps his fingers and erases the human's memories. The next thing we know, Eleanor awakens in the waiting room once again, and Michael takes her around the neighborhood. After taking her back to her house, Janet appears and gives Eleanor the note she'd written to herself. It reads, "Eleanor, find Chidi." In the next scene, Eleanor finds Chidi at the welcoming party. She shows him the paper and explains how she obtained it, but as expected, Chidi doesn't believe her. Still, she convinces him to come over to her place. However, just as she is about to discuss the matter, Michael walks in, followed by several others, including Tahani, Jason, and Eleanor's new soulmate, and just like the previous instance, all of them begin bickering, and it doesn't take long for Eleanor this time to realize that they are not in the good place. Worried, Michael erases their minds again, and reboots his plan a third time, lying to his boss Sean that he is still on attempt number 2. However, no matter how many times he tries to modify it, from giving humans different soulmates to altering the environment, Eleanor eventually figures out its true nature over and over again. This is the bad play. This is the bad play. This is the bad play. Not only that, but with each reboot, the 4 humans seem to have better personalities, and even find out about the ruse faster and faster. Expectedly, Michael grows more frustrated as time goes on. When he launches attempt number 802, he goes outside to a neighborhood meeting, where only the demon actor Vicky is present. She complains that everyone is sick of the constant reboots, so much that they often can't remember what their jobs even are. When Michael tries to clarify, Vicky mentions that he has lost control of the experiment, so the other demons have gone on strike. She then presents the list of their demands, which includes her taking over the next reboot. Michael is outraged and swiftly refuses the demand, but Vicky blackmails him by saying that if he doesn't comply, she will reveal the 800 reboots to his superior, Sean. This will result in him getting retired for sure. Michael is visibly frustrated, but just then, an idea strikes his mind. He goes to Eleanor's house, where she, Chidi, and Tahani are, and Jason joins them. Seemingly once again, they already know they are in the bad place. Eleanor says they keep figuring out the puzzle of the good place, so they're winning and he's losing. However, Michael says that he wants to team up with them. He details his plan. He will reboot the neighborhood but secretly leave the 4 humans' memories intact. Then they will pretend to emotionally suffer for a long time, without realizing this is a fake good place. If they refuse, the experiment will be deemed a failure, and everything will go downhill. Michael himself will be retired and burned eternally, while the humans will be shifted to traditional physical torture. Michael also claims that he can get the 4 and himself into the real good place. If they succeed in their plan, they agree, but Eleanor adds a condition. As a member of the team, Michael must also participate in Chidi's ethics classes. Next, the neighborhood is again rebooted, with Vicky taking over as the main caretaker. For the next few months, the 4 humans pretend to suffer emotionally and not know about the fake good place. Every day they meet Michael in secret, where they are also joined by Janet, whose purpose is to serve the humans. There, they are taught ethics by Chidi. It is difficult for Michael to understand the concepts, owing to the fact that he is an immortal being whose only purpose is to torture humans. He confides to Eleanor that he finds it hard, and wonders how she was able to improve so much. Eleanor states that whenever she did a bad thing, she'd hear a little voice telling her it was wrong. When she would do good, it would go away, and she would feel better. Michael takes comfort in this. Time passes, and one day, Michael receives a surprise visit. It's his superior Sean, congratulating him on the success of his experiment, and promotes him. He reveals that based on records, the 4 humans have been enduring similar torture like the ones in the actual bad place. Michael then pretends to reveal to the 4 humans that they're in fact in the bad place. However, much to their shock, Sean informs them that because the experiment is a success, they want to study everything that happened here. The 4 humans will now be transferred to a traditional section of the bad place to be tortured. There, their brains will be studied. As expected, the group is devastated. In particular, Eleanor feels like Michael has betrayed them. However, he claims that he didn't know anything about this. Eleanor starts berating him as they are now doomed, but Michael says that there is one solution. They have to escape the good place, and for that, they need to meet the judge who lives in a portal in the middle of the bad place. Then all the humans have to individually back up their claims that they are worthy of living in the good place. The humans are skeptical about the idea, but since they have no other options, they agree. Next, Eleanor, Chidi, Tahani, Jason, Michael, and Janet are on a train on their way to the bad place headquarters. After a long journey, they make it to the residence of the all-knowing judge, Jen, and try to convince her that they are worthy of being in the good place. However, the judge reveals that no human has been accepted to the good place in the past 531 years. Shocked to learn this, Michael argues that the points system is inherently flawed, as the rise of globalization and industrial capitalism has simply made it impossible for any human to be ruled good enough. After a lot of arguments, the judge agrees that there is a flaw in the system, which they need to fix immediately. To solve this, she conducts a meeting and summons some others to discuss the matter. The team then makes a proposal. In the current system, people get one shot at life, get evaluated, and get a final destiny. But in Michael's fake good place, the 4 humans had hundreds of lives because of the reboots, and through them they got better and better. Hence, they propose that the life humans have on Earth will be considered not the test of one's ultimate destiny, but just a starting class. At death, the humans' point total will give them a place to begin. All of them will go through a test, a simulated environment like Michael's neighborhood, set up by by 2 architects, one from the good place and one from the bad place. They will make a scenario which exposes the person's moral shortcomings. At the end of the scenario, the architects will sit down with them and evaluate what they need to work on, and then they'll get rebooted. Dan, a member, asks how that's going to help, since they'll forget everything when rebooted. Eleanor explains that what they discussed will remain with them, like a little voice in their head. Humans will go through it as many times as needed. In each reset life, most people will improve until they are the best versions of themselves. Some people won't, but most will, which will allow them into the good place. Impressed by the elaborate plan, the judge agrees to the new system, much to the humans' delight. To kickstart the system, at first, they need to identify the first 1,000 humans to be tested. In the next scene, the first batch of test neighborhoods are up and running. As Eleanor and her group are passing by the crowded place, they suddenly hear the sound that the system makes when someone passes the test for the good place. Excited, they ask Michael who passed, and the latter replies that it's the 4 of them. The judge has decided that they don't need to take any tests since they have saved more humans by proposing this new system, and that's worth a lot of points. After some time, a golden balloon descends from the sky to send them to the real good place. The 4 humans are accompanied by Janet and Michael, with the latter saying that he wants to travel for a bit. Soon, the balloon takes off. A few moments later, the squad finally makes it to the good place. The good place committee welcomes everyone as heroes and tells Michael to come along with them as they want to bring him in as an official good place architect. The humans go through a portal to their welcome party, which has decorations and memorabilia relating to all 4 of their personal tastes. Janet also reveals there are 2 green doors there, which are all over the good place, through which a person can go to visit any time or place, real or imaginary. Hearing this, Jason dashes off to fulfill his lifelong dream of racing go-karts with monkeys. On the other hand, Chidi and Eleanor run into the legendary philosopher, Hypatia of Alexandria. Chidi ecstatically tries to ask her about her work, but she's tongue-tied, not really capable of any more than small talk. She then tells them that things in the good place are not quite what they seem. In theory, the good place is a perfect paradise, where all your needs and desires are instantly met, but eventually the novelty of that pleasure wears out on the mind, turning it into mush. Hypatia then reveals that she doesn't even remember the works she is famous for on Earth. Tahani sees for herself what Hypatia has revealed, as she socializes with the other residents, who are in even worse shape, as they're all lethargic hedonists who can only speak in monotonous tones when interacting with her. Everyone has become a bunch of unfeeling zombies, who are unbearably bored after having experienced literally everything. Now they have nothing more to do but wait out the rest of eternity. Meanwhile, Michael is given a nice robe and medal by the committee. They also have him sign a big scroll that makes him an architect, and as soon as it is signed, the committee members scoop it up and dash out of the room, saying that Michael's now officially in charge of the good place. After a while, the squad regroups. Jason, who has just returned, reveals that go-kart racing against monkeys got boring real fast, proving the good place is incapable of keeping anyone happy forever. Discussing this, they realize that's why the committee quit. They knew they had a problem, but couldn't think of any way to fix it except more ways to fulfill desires. Just then, Eleanor comes up with a theory. She says that every human is a little bit sad all the time because they know they will die, but that knowledge is what gives life meaning. However, here in the good place, you don't have that. Hence, during a party, when all the residents of Good Place have gathered, Eleanor and her group suggest their idea of having the option to leave the place forever. If someone wants to go, they can leave through a door, but this will mean that they will never be able to return. Hearing this, the crowd stares for a while, but then it erupts in cheers. They absolutely love the idea and start partying. After a few weeks, we get to know that the system is working. Michael and Janet have regular meetings with Judge Jan and the architects on how things are going, and while there are some bumps in the road, millions of humans are being properly sent to their appropriate destinies. Meanwhile, those in the good place are making the choice to leave once they are ready. The first from Eleanor's squad to make the decision is Jason. He's won a perfect game in Madden NFL. After thousands of tries, Andy's reached the end of his goals in the afterlife. He emotionally tells his friends of the decision and then throws a big farewell party before going out. Meanwhile, Tahani has been spending her afterlife mastering every practical skill she can think of. She knows that going through the door would be a waste of all the knowledge she's gained, so she decides to apply it all towards becoming an architect. Like Michael, Chidi and Eleanor have been happily going through the works of famous philosophers and hanging out with their friends and family members who have made it to the good place. However, One day, Eleanor finds out that Chidi is also ready to go, and becomes determined to keep him with her. But when she realizes that it would be selfish to force him to stay, she tearfully bids him goodbye. On their last night together, Chidi reassures Eleanor that he'll always be with her. In a way, when the next morning comes, she wakes up alone in bed, with a final parting gift from her soulmate. Eleanor feels ready to leave, but Michael also wants to go through the door, as he feels he's accomplished everything and no longer knows what to do anymore, now that the judges stopped their meetings due to how well the new system works. But as the last door wasn't made for him, Eleanor gets an idea. She convinces Judge Jen to let Michael go to Earth and live as a human being, and in no time the former architect of the bad place is turned into a human. Before leaving, he promises Janet that they'll see each other again. In his new human life, Michael makes friends, makes mistakes, learns from them, and experiences new things. A few weeks later, Eleanor, who now feels whole and complete, shares one last margarita and chats with Janet. The show ends as the two hug, and Eleanor finally goes through the last door.